Dear friends, welcome to the next session for software engineering and designing concepts. So in the previous session, we looked at classical waterfall model. Today we will be discussing three other software development lifecycle models which are necessarily a derivative or an extension of the classical waterfall model. So let's get started. So classical waterfall model basically is an ideal model which assumes that no defect is present during the entire course of development of the project. But this is not possible in a practical scenario because the defect might arise at any stage, and it is almost impossible for anyone to know about the complete customer requirements before the start of the project. Hence, classical waterfall model do not provide necessary and sufficient condition for project development, and generally defects are identified at a much later state, which might be identified as later as the coding or testing phase. So there might be some defects which are present in the design phase itself, and they are identified only in the testing phase. So in that scenario, we need to go back to the design stage and rectify those defects before we can proceed with the next phase. But this kind of provision is not provided in the classical waterfall model. We definitely need a feedback loop or return step from the point of identification to the point of existence of the defect, which means that we have to have some mechanism by which we can move from the coding or testing phase back to the point where the defect had occurred, for example your requirement analysis or design phase. So this kind of feedback loop or this kind of a reverse path is generated in an iterative waterfall model. So looking into it diagrammatically, when you will look into this figure, it represents the classical waterfall model steps, but along with a feedback loop to each of the stages, so that whenever there is a problem occurring in the integration and system testing phase, it could be rectified then and there, or if there is a defect which has occurred in probably requirement analysis and it is identified in integration and system testing, so it can move from integration and system testing back to requirement analysis, or from integration and system testing back to design, or from maintenance stage back to coding or unit testing or design or requirement analysis. So whatever be the scenario, from any position to any position, there is a provision of movement or there is a provision of backtracking to the point of existence of that particular defect after it is being identified, and then the developer can go ahead and rectify and proceed with the next phase. So this is advantageous in terms of your classical waterfall model. One very important concept, which is known as phase containment of errors, is basically seen in this iterative waterfall model, which states that errors should be detected as close as the point of introduction. So whenever a defect is introduced or wherever a defect arises, it should be immediately detected so that the problem can be taken care of easily. Otherwise, we have to rework, as any design defect identified at the implementation phase needs to work out on coding, testing and implementation phases as well. Now moving back to our diagram, if suppose there is a defect which is in requirement analysis phase and it is identified at integration and system testing, so it is not so that if we move back to requirement analysis and rectify the mistake or rectify the defect there, we can bounce back to the integration and system testing again. We have to repeat the design and the coding and unit testing phases as well with the changed or with the corrected form of the defect. Now this will involve a lot of rework. Hence, phase containment of errors is extremely necessary while developing the software life cycle. And the errors should be detected whenever it is being introduced into the system. So the advantages of iterative waterfall model is feedback path is present and better management of errors. As already mentioned, there is a feedback path from each of the phase to each of the phase, and we have better management of errors because of the phase containment of errors initially, and secondly because we can go back and correct the errors. So the next model that we will be discussing is the prototyping model. This model is extremely important from the perspective of the modern day development scenario. Most of the organizations or most of the development life cycle is dependent on the prototyping model, where a working prototype of the model is built first before the actual project development. Now, what do you mean by a prototype? Basically, a prototype is a toy implementation of the real life scenario or of the real time project, which has limited performance, low reliability, and has insufficient functions. But it gives a flavor of the entire project, or it gives a flavor of the entire product to the customers as well as developers. We call it as a toy implementation because this prototype seldom comes of use and people rarely depend upon this prototype alone for the actual project development. Moreover, it do not have equivalent performance as compared to your real-time product or real-time project. But then, why do you think that building a prototype is necessary? The first thing is it gives a blueprint of the entire project to the customer, like what should be the input, what will be the output, how will be the interactive dialogues, etc. So, if a customer gets the entire blueprint of the software or of the entire project that he wants to implement, it gives him an upper hand in identifying if he has missed out on any of the features that he had to mention to the developers. The next important point is examine the technical issues related to the project development, like efficiency of the sorting algorithm or response time of the hardware, etc. So not all softwares are dependent only on the design or database. Some of the softwares also relates to various algorithms or various types of hardware that it needs to communicate with. Now, technical issues might arise when it comes to real-time development of that project. So, initially building a prototype and testing it out on one or two scenarios would be beneficial to identify such type of technical issues. The next important point is it is almost impossible to get it right in the first instance itself. This is true because if we get all the correct information in the first sitting or first discussion with the customer itself, then and there our development process should start and we should be able to deliver it in a good amount of time. But the problem is, in various scenarios we see that the customer himself doesn't even know what he wants to implement or what are the additional features that he wants to implement in his software. So in order to fit those additional requirements by the customers, a prototype is extremely important. So once a prototype is built, it is sent to the customer for evaluation. Once the customer successfully evaluates it, he reports it back to the developer saying that okay, this is fine, or I need some more features associated with it and the specification of the features. So on receiving the specification of the features, the developers would refine the existing prototype and go on refining it and delivering it to the customer until and unless the customer is satisfied. So once the customer is satisfied, the developers can go ahead with actual implementation. So when we look at the diagrammatic representation of the prototyping model, we will see a self loop within the diagram, where after the feasibility study and the requirement gathering is done, a quick design for the project is developed. So once the quick design is developed, a prototype is built. As already discussed, prototype is a toy implementation of the entire project. So when this prototype is built, it is sent to the customer for evaluation of the prototype. Evaluation essentially means the customer will look for all the things that he has discussed during the requirement gathering and analysis phase. So once the customer has evaluated and has reported back with the issues and the features that he wants additionally to be implemented or to be removed from that particular prototype, the requirements are refined by the development team. Once the requirements are refined, again a quick design is developed after the refinement is done and a prototype is built, and the same process will go on and on until the customer is satisfied. Once the customer is satisfied, the quick design is converted into, or the prototype is converted into a real-time design, which means a proper design of the entire project, and finally implementation, which is your coding and unit testing and your system and integration testing, etc., would be carried out as per the classical or iterative waterfall model steps, and finally maintenance of the project is done. So this is extremely important from the perspective of modern day development scenario, because it not only helps to gather the customer requirements without flaws, but it also helps to make the necessary changes before we actually invest our time, money and human resources or other resources into development of the actual project. So there are two types of prototyping model. We generally call it as a throwaway prototyping model for the first type, and the second one is evolutionary prototyping. So throwaway prototyping, as already understood, or from the very word throw away, it means that the prototype needs to be thrown away or it is of no use. So that prototype which is used to satisfy the customer requirements or to satisfy the customer evaluation is thrown away, and a more better and efficient form of that prototype is developed as the main project. The next one is the evolutionary prototyping, where the prototype is also a part of the actual project. That means the prototype is enhanced and additional features are added onto the same prototype until and unless it develops into a main project. So basically, throwaway prototyping model essentially refers to the prototype being not used in that particular project, and a new set of design and development is done for the actual project after the prototype has been approved. But an evolutionary prototype is basically a part of the existing project development, where it is enhanced to be scaled up to the main project. So when we are talking about advantages of your prototyping model, basically users actively participate in the development and they get a better understanding of the system being developed, because after each round of evaluation, the customer has to give, or the users has to give feedback to the developers, and it will intensely involve the user and the customer in the entire development process, and he or she would be able to understand the system better. Errors are detected much earlier. Here when we are talking about errors, it essentially means the missing components and they are detected at a much earlier state. Quicker user feedback is available, leading to better solutions, because under the normal scenario it takes a long amount of time to develop a particular design and then deploy it and finally deliver it to the customer. So only after delivery the customer would be able to give any feedback. However, the design phase itself takes a lot of time. So in your prototyping model, the main design is replaced using a quick design. So in order to satisfy your customer requirements, this design will prove to be fruitful because the customer can quickly give a feedback regarding this particular design without having to wait for coding and testing phase. Then missing features can be identified easily and time required to complete the project after final SRS reduces, since the developer has a better idea of how he should approach the project. So once the SRS is developed, so it essentially will give the developer more amount of understanding, because it will not only depend upon the SRS but it will also depend upon the evaluation of the SRS by the customer himself. So the developer need not worry about whether the conditions are satisfied in the SRS. The customer will be doing that for himself and giving the feedback to the developers in order to refine the prototype for main development. But there are certain disadvantages also associated to it. Basically, it is a very slow process. It is a slow process because something which can be done in one go or at least 2 or 3 times will be rectified and modified and refined n number of times, and it will not only consume time while developing the prototype, but it will also lead to a delay in developing the actual phase if a throwaway prototyping model is involved. So too much involvement of the client is not always preferred by the developer. Now some developers want to work on their own. Constant interruption and intervention from the customer might distract them and lead them into a different direction from what he has all conventionally been doing. So too many changes can disturb the rhythm of the development team. Now, as mentioned in our earlier sessions, the development team is given certain responsibility to work with. Not all the people in the development team are working on just one activity, but they are handling several activities. Now if there are many changes going on the system again and again, then the rhythm of the development or the momentum with which the people are working in that particular team might be disturbed. Practically, the methodology may increase the complexity of the system as the scope of the system may expand beyond original plans. So the customer might have something in his mind originally, but as and when time progresses, the customer is also brainwashed or also given a scope of expanding and scaling up his project to a different direction or to a different level altogether, which might definitely increase the complexity. For example, suppose initially you wanted to go to the market and get some rice for yourself. Now while going to the market, if you simply order it from any of the Android applications or any of the websites, you will be just ordering the rice for yourself. So it is over then and there. Now imagine the scenario where you are yourself going to the market and purchasing rice. So at the same point when you reach a shop, you might be involved in some other food items as well apart from rice. So in that scenario, there will be a constraint related to your time where you will be late for your next activity, or there will be a constraint related to your expenses because you will have a definite budget for shopping. So this is just a practical scenario. So considering that same scenario in developing a software, the complexity of the system may arise because, or the complexity of the system may increase because the initial scope may be expanded beyond the original plans. Now the fifth important point is, if client is not satisfied with the developed prototype, a new prototype should be made, which may lead to be expensive. Now whenever the prototype is developed, it is essential that the prototype is evaluated and refined by the customer. Now what if the customer does not like the prototype at all? So in that scenario, new prototype needs to be developed, which will be expensive because time, energy and money has already been wasted upon the previous prototype, which is of no longer of use. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of the prototyping model. However, most of the organizations currently rely upon the prototyping model for its functionalities. The third important software development lifecycle model is the evolutionary model, and it is known as evolutionary model as well as successive versions or incremental model. It is known so because the system is broken down into several modules, the core modules and the additional modules. So they can be incrementally implemented and delivered. So what is the objective of this particular model is, first it will develop the core modules of the system, and once the initial product skeleton is formed, it is refined into increasing levels of capability by adding new functionalities in successive versions. So initially in maybe version 1, the core modules are developed. After that, it is scaled up to version 2, where new features are added on top of the core modules. Again, few other features are added in the third version of the software. So this is entirely based upon your evolutionary process of development or incremental or successive versions. Currently, all the softwares that are running in your system basically are dependent upon evolutionary development because the core modules are already developed. They are just adding new features into it. So looking into it from a diagram point of view, A refers to the core modules, B are the successive models in version 2, C is the next successive version or additional features attached to the successive version of the same project. So initially the project which has had A, now in the version 2 has B, and in the third version has A, B and C together. So this is known as the evolutionary model or successive or incremental model, where the core modules are attached with the additional modules or additional features, and successive versions of the same module is released. Now, evolutionary model has certain problems. First is the lack of process visibility. When we are talking about process visibility, it essentially means that we actually do not know how the things are developed in the later stage. Then systems are often poorly constructed. Generally, this is also true because systems, whenever they are structured or they are developed, it needs to have a complete idea of the SRS. However, in evolutionary model, it does not have a complete idea, or the idea is not completely documented in the SRS. It simply goes on adding any new features that comes across or that is required by the customer to the core modules. Then special skills, example in languages for rapid prototyping, may be required. So it might be so that the successive versions or the additional modules might require rapid prototyping or might require prototype to be developed. So the developers has to be well adapted with the prototyping type of development as well, along with the evolutionary development. It is generally applicable for small or medium size interactive systems. For parts of large system, example, the user interface. So it is not the entire system itself, but it will have a small part or small role to be played in the entire software. Example, the user interfaces, where we can go on adding the additional components if required on our successive versions. So helps finding exact user requirements much before fully working system is developed. So it also helps in getting the user requirements, because after every successive version the user will be involved in giving his own ideas and refinement to the project. So core modules get tested thoroughly, reduces chance of errors in the final product. So core modules, which forms the backbone of this particular model, are to be developed thoroughly, or it is developed thoroughly in this particular model, so that there are no such defects which will be arising out of the core modules, or which will on which the other models or other modules are dependent. So these are the applicability or the advantages. However, evolutionary model is not a very practical way of development for a software from the scratch. It is like scaling up a particular application or scaling up a particular software in a system. So that is all for today. Thank you.